Hey everyone, how's it going? So I started a YouTube live earlier by accident. I downloaded this application that was supposed to help me do this, and there was a big notice at the bottom of the page that said, make sure you read all the instructions so that you don't skip a step and so that you can avoid embarrassment. And I decided to skip the instructions and just start pushing buttons, and I accidentally started the live stream. And people were here asking, what's going on? Where are you? So, yeah, that's what happened. That's why I was not, you guys were not seeing anything on screen. But anyway, so what is this YouTube live thing about? Well, today is Sunday, the 23rd of July, and tomorrow, the 24th, I'm going to be flying out to Australia for a conference, Adobe Make It. And I was just practicing a couple of things that I was going to show at the event, and then I thought about it, and I was like, oh wow, I haven't showed any of those things on my YouTube channel. So I thought, why not just give you guys a little tease of the things that I'm going to be talking about in this event. So I haven't really prepared to do this video, and so it's not going to be as polished as my other Photoshop tutorials, but I think you guys will like it. So just let me know in the comments what you think as I'm working. I can't really be watching the comments as I'm doing things, but I'll try to do my best. So yeah, so just let me know if you can see the Photoshop screen. So as I said earlier, this is my first time doing a YouTube live. So if you can see the Photoshop screen, then we're all good. So I'm gonna get started. Hi everybody, I'm seeing a whole bunch of people saying hello, hello. Yeah, hi everybody. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna first show you guys a couple. We're actually going to be working with more than Photoshop today. We're going to be working with 3 different applications, and I'm going to show you how you can use Photoshop to work with 3D. So this is a 3D stream, but don't freak out if you're not into 3D and if you don't know anything about it. The point of this is for people who are not 3D people to learn how to use 3D with the tools that Adobe provides us. And actually, you know what? Before we get started, there's one thing that I forgot. For those of you that are interested, this is the conference that I'm going to be at in Sydney. It's called Adobe Make It. And I'm just going to scroll down through the page, and these are the people that are going to be speaking. For those of you who are in Australia and who will be at this conference, my session is on... When is my session? Let me see. Where am I at? My session is here. Here I am. So my session is at 1:30 p.m. on, I don't even know what day. I believe it's on the 2nd of August. Yeah, so there you go, 2nd of August. I'm going to be there a week early, so I get to travel and see the city in Australia, actually. I'm going to be in Sydney. I'm going to go to Cairns, although I'm not sure that's how it's pronounced. But anyway, I'll be there. But anyway, so let me go back to what I was going to show you guys. So we are in Photoshop. And a lot of people don't know that you can actually create 3D characters and animate them in Photoshop. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm just going to create a new document, and the size is really not that important. So I'm just going to go for a 1920 by 1080 document. And I already created a 3D model. I'm going to show you how I created it, but first I'm going to actually show you that 3D model. So I have a Creative Cloud library with some 3D models. I have this woman here. I can click and drag her onto the canvas from my library. And I have these 3D tools here at the bottom that I can rotate the camera and do all these cool things around her. But right now she's just in this weird T position, and that doesn't look very good. So we can actually animate her in Photoshop. So here we are in the 3D panel. And if I select that 3D model in the properties panel, I get all these different animations that I could apply to her. So for example, I can do something like quickly pointing what does that say? Quickly pointing angrily forward. All right, let's try that one. So I select it, but nothing really happens. But if I open up the timeline panel, then I can see her pointing angrily, and then I can just select the frame that I like, and that'll be the frame that I will use, and then I can composite that onto a photo and do whatever I like to that 3D model. Now the cool thing is that you don't have to, you can create these 3D models really easily using an Adobe application. It's not Photoshop, but it's free for Creative Cloud users, whether you have the photography plan or the full version of the Creative Cloud. It works and is really easy to do. So that's what I'm going to show you. I have this application here called Adobe Fuse CC. And if you don't have it installed, just open up your Creative Cloud app and install that application. It's somewhere in here. There it is, Fuse CC. I already have it installed, but if you don't have it installed, instead of open, you'll see the install button. And while you're at it, install Project Felix, because we're going to talk about that one next. So anyway, Adobe Fuse CC, what is that? That is a way of creating 3D models really easy without knowing any 3D. And 3D models are like, I'm talking about characters, not necessarily like cars or things like that. So these are going to be characters, and it's so easy to use. So we have these buttons that we can click on. These are heads. So I can click on any one of these heads. So I can click on this zombie, for example. And once I select it, Photoshop is gonna, or I'm sorry, Fuse is going to show me what that model looks like. And I accidentally double clicked, so I gave him a female body, but that's okay. We can have female zombies. But anyway, as you can see, I'm clicking on the different elements that I can add to this model. So it doesn't have to be just, you know, they don't all have to be the zombie hands and feet or whatever that you can miss and match. So I'm just selecting different types of body parts for my 3D model, and then I can just simply click and rotate around it so that I can see what that model looks like. And I can also add clothing, so I can click on the clothing tab and just give him or her whatever clothing I want. We have pants and shoes and all these different things, and we can literally spend hours here doing this. And I actually just glanced at the questions, and I saw a question that said my 3D is disabled. Good question. So if your 3D is disabled, it means that your computer doesn't have the power to run 3D, unfortunately. So there's nothing you can do besides upgrading your computer or getting a whole new computer. So on Google, you can just search for, you know, Photoshop CC 2017 or whatever requirements, and you'll see the minimum requirements for 3D. So yeah, you do need to have the right graphics card, excuse me. But anyway, so you can add clothing and do anything you want to your 3D model. You can also adjust the texture, and you can select, for example, his pants and just do a whole bunch of things to it. For example, we can increase the wear level. There's dirt that you can add to his clothing. So there's all these different settings. And again, we can spend all day here just sliding things around, and you can see how they work. But what I really want to show you today is that once you've done creating your 3D model, you can save it to a CC library. So I'm not going to save this one just for the sake of time. It'll take a minute or two. But once you have it saved to a CC library, it's going to appear on your Creative Cloud library. So like right here, I have 5 different models that I've created. And some of you may have seen one of these models before, and actually what I'll do is I'll just delete this 3D model and show you this one. Some of you may have seen this 3D model before, which is a zombie, and I animated it like I showed you a second ago by going into the 3D panel here where it says shoe skeleton. I don't know why it's got that name, but anyway, that's what it is. It's got a little bone on it. That's how you know that's that 3D model, and you can animate it. You can search for different things. So I'm just going to type in zombie and hit enter, and now there's like different zombie animations that I can apply that I can apply to this 3D model. And once again, through the timeline, you can scrub through the animation and you can just find a frame that you like. But anyway, so that's sort of what I did, and I created this image that, again, some of you may have seen. It's on my Behance page. If you want to follow me on Behance, by the way, it's behance.net/JR from PTC, JR capital, PTC capital, from lowercase, JR from PTC. But anyway, so this is where I have this 3D model that I created. So the background is an Adobe stock image, and then I just use one of those animations of a zombie, and then applied a whole bunch of layers and things like that. And actually, I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'll show you the file if I can find it quickly here. And that is a project that you guys probably should have not seen, but oh well. So tutorials, let me see, projects, zombie project, and I don't remember which one of these is the file that has everything. I think this is the one. Yeah, this is it, and I don't need the timeline panel for this. But anyway, so all these layers went into creating that zombie. So I originally started out with just the render. So that was the render from Photoshop, and obviously that doesn't look very realistic. So I started applying all these different layers to add shadow, lighting, and things like that. This right here is just a dodge and burn layer, and just adding different colors and things like that. So it's just compositing at the end. It's nothing too fancy. I've done a lot of compositing tutorials. I have a love the folder name question mark. I had a folder name question mark. I'm sorry, reading one of the comments. Yeah, I probably have. I have a lot of weird names for everything. But anyway, so yeah, so this is how that was created. So I started out with just a Fuse 3D model and applied all those layers. And also, you can create animations too. If you go onto my Instagram account, JR from PTC is my Instagram account. I have a zombie there. Where is he? He's in here somewhere. There he is. So I have this guy, and that's the same zombie, and he's just dancing. So one thing that you'll notice is that the textures are actually different. I don't usually like using the textures that come off Fuse CC just because they're a little cartoony and they don't look realistic in my opinion. So what I do is with a zombie like this one, you can actually go into the 3D panel. You have the skeletons, and there's these things called mats. These are the materials. So for example, this one here, bottom mat, I can go in the properties panel, in the diffuse, I can click on edit texture, and that is the texture that makes up those genes. So as you can see, and I'm going to disable the UV overlay so that those lines don't bother you as you look at this texture. As you can see, it doesn't look very realistic. It's also very small. So usually what I do is I just go to image size, and then maybe just make that like 2500 by 2500, and then I can bring in a different texture. So I can just find a texture of jeans online that looks a little more realistic, and I think I already have one here somewhere if I could find it. This one may or may not work. I don't know if it's for the same model, but anyway, I'll just put it in there so that you can see how it works. It's not going to look 100% perfect because it was for a different model, but you'll get the idea. I'm going to save it. Control S, Command S on the Mac, and look at the jeans now that he's wearing. They don't look as fake just because I use like a real jean texture. And the real reason, whoops, I'm accidentally distorting the zombie, so you can distort things. But the real reason that I created this live stream actually looks pretty good now that I'm looking at it. You can actually make a selection and then go into 3D. And where is the render button? Yeah, see, I know it's in here somewhere, but I always forget where things are. All right, I'm just gonna click on the render button here. So it happens to me all the time. You guys just don't see it in the videos because they're edited out. So yeah, I make mistakes all the time. But anyway, so we're gonna let this thing render, and as you can see, it doesn't look that bad. It looks much better than it did before just by adding a better texture. Now, what I was gonna say is that the reason that I started this stream is because, as I said, I'm speaking at Adobe MAKE IT in Sydney, Australia, and one of the things that I'm going to be talking about is Project Felix, which is another 3D application, and they just came up with an update just, I believe, 2 days ago. And I'm not going to have time to make a video for that. I've never done a Project Felix video on my YouTube channel. I've done courses on it on websites like PTCLive. But I decided to make a video, but then I thought I have no time to make a video and edit it. So then this is how this whole live stream idea came about. So anyway, let me go into Project Felix, and this is a really, really cool program. So again, it's free for the Creative Cloud users, and I'm having trouble finding my Creative Cloud app. There it is. So Project Felix, I'm going to open it, and this is what it looks like. I'm just going to create a brand new project. And this is really cool because you have these different 3D models under the models tab that you can add to your scene, or you can import 3D models from Fuse, which I'm gonna show you in this live stream. And you can also use 3D models from anywhere. And Adobe Stock has some for free and some that you can purchase. And they have materials and all kinds of cool things. So we're going to just click and drag one of those 3D models just so you can see how they work. And this 3D model here comes with Project Felix. It's like their little 3D model so you can try things out. And what you can do is then you can bring in an image. So I have this outdoor image, which again comes included with Project Felix. And with Project Felix, you have a 3D model, you have your background, we have your tools on the left, panels on the right, a lot like Photoshop. And I'll quickly go through the tools. And oh, actually, this is super cool. So with Project Felix, when you hover over a tool, it gives you like these really cool descriptions. I think Photoshop should do this. And also with, let me see if I can find one. Yeah, like right here, like if I hover over something, a little animation appears and it tells you exactly what it does. So that is super cool. So again, I hope Adobe includes this into Photoshop because it will make things a whole lot easier, especially when you're first learning things. But anyway, so on the left-hand side, we have these tools. And if I click on this top one is the move tool. So I can select my little 3D object and I can move him around anywhere I want. I can scale him, make him bigger, smaller. I can rotate him. Pretty cool. Then with these tools here at the bottom, I can do the same thing, but for the 3D scene. But I don't really need to use the rotate tool because with Project Felix, you have this super cool thing where you can just select the background, which is up here on where it says scene. And then you can align image to camera. And notice that line there. For those of you that have watched my tutorials on compositing, you know that one of the most important things for compositing is finding out the horizon line where the ground plane meets the sky. So Project Felix can actually find it for you and it puts the 3D model in perspective right away. So then the only thing you have to do after that point is just move the 3D model into like position and he will always be in perspective. So then now that he's in perspective, I can just rotate him. Oops, I clicked on the wrong rotate tool. I want to rotate the model, not the scene. So there he is. And something that you've been noticing is probably the render preview right up here. So Project Felix automatically gives you a render of what you're doing, a preview, and it works really fast. I can expand that and you can see how the 3D model is going to appear on there. And there he is. He looks really cool. And I'm going to close this. I'm going to bring back that little preview. Oops. But anyway, so then we have our little 3D model here. And one of the things that I wanted to show you is under background, there's something called create light from image. If I click on that, Project Felix is going to ask us if you install, I'm sorry, it's going to ask us if you want to include a light, whether it's outdoors or indoors. So I'm going to say we're outdoors. And now it's going to try to match the lighting of the scene. And check this out. Where am I at? Oh yeah, I'm going to click on light. And now I can increase the intensity of the light, the height of the light. So you can see the shadows interacting with the ground. And I can rotate the shadows. But Project Felix is actually pretty smart and it did a really good job on matching the lighting. So I don't really have to make those adjustments, but you can make them if you want to. Also, notice one thing. We can, actually, I was going to ask you to look at this chrome reflection, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you another thing you can do with Project Felix is if I go into materials, I can apply any one of these materials to this 3D model. So I can click and drag this material over, drop it, and look at that. Now he is all metal, and we can see the reflections of the buildings and everything else. And I can just select different types of materials, and I don't have to select the whole entire 3D model. What I could do instead is go into the different pieces of the model. See how right here where it says wireless speaker, that's the model, and it's got all these little pieces, and when I click on them, it selects a different part of the model. So I can just select that part and then go and drag that metal piece. So now only that part is metal. And if I bring out that render window, you'll see it rendering here with all the reflections. But anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into File, New, and I'm not going to save it. And I'm going to import a 3D model. And actually, before I import it, I'm going to show you how to export it. So we have a zombie like this guy here. We can go to File, 3D, Export 3D Layer. And you can choose OBJ. And I usually like working with pixels, but it really doesn't make that much of a difference for what we're doing. And we're exporting scene and textures, and then I'm going to press OK. And it's going to ask me where I'm going to where I want to save it. So I'm just going to save it in a folder called, I guess we'll make a folder called Zombie so we can find it on my desktop. And I guess we'll just call it ZZ just to work a little bit faster. And then I can go back into Project Felix, and I can go into File, Import 3D Model, and we have our zombie, ZZOBJ, and there is our zombie. He looks really, really huge, but we can scale out, and there he is. We can go into that outdoors image once again. We can align the camera to the image, and we can create a light from the image. We're outdoors. There he is, and we can continue adjusting him if need be. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to show you is that with these fuse models, we can also adjust the different parts of the 3D model. So we can, for example, select body, click on this down pointing arrow, and there's that body material, and then we get all these other options here, so we can just adjust them and see how they react. Or we can simply replace them by dragging one of the materials that Project Felix has for us. So for example, we can do that metal thing again and just do it on his body. And now he kind of looks like a zombie T-1000 from Terminator or something like that. But anyway, so we have all these different things that we can apply. I don't know. Oh, and by the way, you can actually download even more materials from Adobe Stock. So I've downloaded some, and you can find those in the Libraries panel. And let me go into my 3D assets. Oh, I'm already there. I have all these 3D assets, and I don't know, maybe we want a wooden zombie. So now he's made out of wood. So, and notice how realistic these things look. So let me go back into the render so that we could see it. And it renders pretty fast. The shadows, the lighting, all that stuff matches, and it works pretty good. But anyway, now you're wondering, so what if you want to use Project Felix to composite the 3D model and use Photoshop to further enhance the effects, sort of like I did with my zombie project that I showed you? Well, you can actually click on this render tab and then click on format, which is a PSD layer. So you're just going to get two layers. One layer is going to be the zombie, and the other layer is going to be the background. So then I'm just going to click on Save As Now just because I don't want to spend all this time rendering. So I'm just going to call this Test Zombie. And again, I'll put it on the desktop. And I'm just going to stop it. And we're going to work with that one. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and my desktop, Test Zombie. So that's what you get. You get two layers. Actually 3 layers, the background layer, which is really nothing. So we get the background image and the render here. Obviously the render doesn't look very good because we didn't give it enough time to render, but you can imagine that at this point we can come in and start applying different adjustment layers to the image. And by the way, the reason that I didn't have all my, notice that when I went up to my adjustment layers, there's a lot of adjustment layers grayed out. That's because we're working with a 32-bit image. So I'm just going to bring it back down to 8, don't merge, and now I have all my adjustment layers. So then I could, create a clipping mask here and then use the curves adjustment layers to fine-tune the 3D model if need be. But anyway, so that was just a super, super quick overview of Photoshop, 3D, Fuse, and Project Felix. So, yeah. Oh, and actually, I didn't really mention it, but again, it's not gonna it might not make a lot of sense since I really need to spend more time on this, but one of the new features of Felix, which again came out a few days ago, is you can bookmark your camera. So you can make a bookmark here and just add one, view 2. So we have default view, view 2, and then maybe I could rotate a little bit, and then we have view 3. So view 2, view 3. So that's one of the new features. And then you saw part of one of the other new features, which was the sunlight right here. That was one of the new things that came in with Fuse. And also notice how cool these highlights look if I increase the intensity. So I think that looks really, really cool. And anyway, you obviously have to play around with the intensity and then look at the render view just to see what the difference is. But there you go. I made it into a small window, and now I can keep adjusting the intensity and just look for something that I think works for whatever scene I have. So yeah, I haven't looked at the comments, so let me take a quick look and just see what you guys have been saying. Somebody said, just wiped out from too much partying. Man, I'm jealous. I've been working trying to get ready for this conference, and yeah, I haven't been doing much of that. Hopefully I do some partying in Australia. I have photography plans, shows install for Felix, but only try for Fuse. Yeah, so Felix you can install, and I think Fuse at the moment, something's going on. I'm not really sure what it is, but you can try it, and I think they said, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think their website says Fuse CC, you can download it for like 600 days or something. So it's a long time. So yeah, even if you try it, it's not like it's gonna go away pretty soon. Let me see. It's in one of these. Oh, there you go. So 500-day trial. So yeah, so you can try it out for 500 days. What software will you use for packing design, like carton boxes designs? I've never done any that type of work before. I would imagine that professionals would use InDesign, and some others may use different 3D applications, but I really wouldn't know which is like the preferred design app for that particular kind of work. Oh, somebody said, oh, okay, super long trial then. Yes, super long trial. And I don't know how long I've been live, and I don't know if you guys have enjoyed this live stream, so just let me know. Like I said, I'm flying out. I'll be in a plane at this time tomorrow for God knows how long. It's gonna take forever to get there. I know that I live in San Francisco, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I know that I leave on a Wednesday afternoon, and I know that I get there I leave on a Monday afternoon, and I get there on a Wednesday morning. So I don't know. It's gonna take forever. But yeah, oh, and actually one thing that I wanted to mention to you guys, because I really haven't made it too public, but I guess I have. I have a new YouTube channel for those of you who speak Espanol. So if you are a Spanish speaker, you can go into videosptc.com, and that is my new YouTube channel. It's in Spanish, and don't worry if you're an English speaker, my main channel will still be the English one. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just translating the videos that I already have in English into Spanish. So you probably recognize some of these tutorials. So my goal is to at one point just publish both at the same time, but the Spanish website needs some catching up to do. I'm not going to translate them all, but I'll translate all the ones that I think are good from the past and then keep up with the newer ones. Somebody's asking me if I have ever been to Australia. No, I have not. It will be my first time. So I'm very excited about that. Do I use Photoshop 3D? Yeah, I use it for whatever I need it. I don't know how to answer that question. I guess, yes, I do use Photoshop 3D. Let me see. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'll probably hang out for just a few more minutes, but yeah, I just wanted to show you guys Project Felix, because again, I'm talking about it in that conference, and I've never really talked about it in my YouTube channel, and I really don't have the time to make and edit a video. So yeah, I figure a live stream would be good for you. And also let me know if you think I should do more live streams, because they're definitely a whole lot easier to do than videos, and I could probably do them more often. And I'm just reading through all the comments in case there's something that I didn't answer. Somebody said, which program is this? I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but we use 3 programs. We use Photoshop, we use Fuse CC to make the 3D model, the characters, and we use Project Felix to composite them together. So it's one of those 3. Next tutorial, create hyper-realistic shadows. Okay, maybe. That's a good idea, actually. I like that. Okay, so quick random story. My first job out of college, I was a graphic designer for Motorola. I worked on just website and random things, and I was known as the guy that could make good shadows. So yeah, for some reason when we did composites, people would just come up to me and say, hey, can you do my shadows for me? So evidently I was good at doing shadows. And actually that just reminds me, I have an old YouTube video that may help you out, just because I talk about shadows, and I don't know where I'm gonna find it. I guess I should go into my YouTube channel, and I think that one may help you out for the shadows, but maybe I'll do one tutorial specifically on shadows. But a long time ago, I did a video, a live stream, sort of like this one actually, and I talked about shadows. So let me find it for you. It's somewhere here. It's a compositing one. Oh, I did it here. It was at the Adobe headquarters like a while ago. So it says Compositing Techniques Live Presentation at Adobe. So that was at the Adobe headquarters in San Jose, California. And I talked about shadows. And I'm not going to play the video now, but you know, it's an hour and a half, and just scroll through until you see shadows, and I talk about shadows. Oh, all right. Somebody said, are all those materials free with the CC plan? So you get, let me bring back Felix. So if you just click on assets and then click on materials, these materials are free, but you can buy more. So under libraries, these are the ones that I've purchased. So then they have obviously more that you can put on your 3D model. And some of these are really cool. Let me see if I could, I'm just gonna select this one, like this one here, the sci-fi pipe one. It's really cool. I don't know if it's gonna work for this model, but actually what I'll do is I'll delete this model and I'll go into like just, I don't know, just a sphere, something that will show off. Oh, my sphere's tiny. I don't know why my sphere's so tiny. But anyway, oh man, I'm actually making this more complicated than I should have, but I know what I'll do here. Don't save anything. I don't know what settings I had on there, so I'm just gonna bring in this sphere, and there it is. And I guess I should do a background so you guys could see it better. So anyway, anything that's under this models tab and this materials tab, it's free. I downloaded extra stuff from Adobe stock, so this one's pretty cool. And let me go back and just, I don't know, select this background. So that's what it looks like. And I'll make it larger so you can see. But anyway, and then there's more. And again, I think I'm spending way too much time on this, but I guess the answer to your question is yes, you can. Some of them are free, and you can download more from Adobe. So anyway, but yeah, as you can see, you can just click and drag these materials, and they look super cool and super realistic. And just so you guys know what I'm talking about when I say Adobe stock, just so there's no confusion, if you go to stock.adobe.com You go to this website and you can just click on the 3D tab, and then you have all choice between 3D models, 3D lights, and 3D materials. We really didn't talk about lights in this stream. I'm not going to, but sort of like I used an image to create that light and that reflection. That's similar idea. I have a tutorial on that on my YouTube channel actually for Photoshop using image-based lights. So if you just on my YouTube channel, wherever that went, if you just type like Chrome 3D Photoshop, I think my video comes out. Chrome 3D Photoshop. There you go, the first one. So it's that one right there. That's what it looks like. Oh, cool. I didn't know they had these little previews now. That's awesome. Anyway, so yeah, you it's on CS6, but you know, still relevant. And that's what an image-based light is. So they sell you different image-based lights and 3D materials. So these are some of the materials that I downloaded that you saw, and actually have more. A lot of these I didn't know were there. Like these ones on top, they're new, and the ones that are blue are the ones that I purchased from them. So anyway, so you have the option of using the ones that they give you, or use the ones that that you purchase. And by the way, for those of you that really want to get into 3D, you might want to, because Photoshop and, you know, Project Felix and Fuse are designed for people who might be designers, but they don't necessarily want to be 3D artists. So everything is easy to do, but because of that, there's limitations. So if you want to really get into 3D, an application that I recommend is Blender. It's free, and it's for 3D. It's like the Photoshop for 3D. It has everything. So I would use that application if you're really interested in 3D. But if you're somebody who just wants to dabble in it, maybe incorporate a couple 3D objects, maybe you know, just create something for fun, then that's what, you know, Felix and Photoshop are good for. And somebody's asking, how can you incorporate 3D into a project? Yeah, there's so many ways. One of the examples that I like to show people, and again, I'm not going to do that now because it will take forever, but it's essentially taking like one of these 3D models that Adobe sells, and I don't know if I'll be able to find it right away, but they have a 3D model of, I think it's a football or something like that. Yeah, it's a football, so not a soccer ball, but a football, American football. But anyway, there's a 3D model of a football, and I create a Super Bowl like poster for like invitation to a party. I think I did that for one of my classes at Creative Live. I don't remember exactly where I did it, but that's an example of how a designer who's really not into 3D can take any one of these 3D elements and apply it into their design. So yeah, there's so many ways. Yeah, somebody wrote, if you want to model Blender, it's okay, but for graphic designers, yeah, and that's sort of what I meant. If you really want to get into 3D, then Photoshop is not the tool. But if you just want to dabble in it and incorporate 3D elements into your designs, and you don't want to bother on learning all the, you know, ins and outs of a 3D application, then Photoshop's the one for you. Another, I did a conference once, and somebody came up to me. I was demoing Fuse, and they came up with an interesting way of using it that I really didn't think about before. It was an architect. And the lady was telling me that she would draw. She had essentially either drawings or stock photos of people, so that she could place on renders that she did of whatever building or, you know, architecture she was working on, just to make it more realistic as she was pitching the design or whatever to whoever she had to pitch it to. But she said that after my demo, she was considering using Fuse because it's easier to create 3D models that look different and get the perspective right, get the lighting right, and all of that. So that will be one way in which you could use Fuse and Photoshop and all these different features for something that's not really related to 3D. And somebody said, check out what Corey Barker's doing. Yeah, Corey Barker, he's a friend of mine. He does a bunch of cool 3D stuff. If I'm not mistaken, he probably even has books on 3D. But Corey, and I cannot remember his website right now, but he's got a 3D, essentially he does mostly 3D tutorials on Photoshop, and he does some really cool stuff. So yeah, check him out. and he's got a YouTube channel too. Again, I can't remember his YouTube channel's name, but I think his YouTube channel is Corey Barker. So yeah, just look up Corey Barker, and he's got, there you go, Master FX training. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, if you're into 3D, look him up. Also, just type in Photoshop 3D and see what people are doing. Anyway, guys, it's been about 40 minutes now, and sorry for those of you who were here when I accidentally pushed that button. I told the story earlier, so I'll tell it again really quickly, but I was not reading the directions when I started this stream because I decided not to, even though there was a sign that said, a notice that said, read directions before starting, and I said, nope. And I accidentally started the stream, and it caused a lot of confusion, so sorry about that. Cinema 4D is good too. Yep. And also, if you're, oh, thanks for, yeah, I'll have a good time down under. Thanks. Yeah, and also if you're more interested in more Photoshop 3D, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a playlist somewhere. Let me see, Photoshop training channel. And if you scroll down, there you go, Photoshop 3D tutorials. So these are the 3D tutorials that I've done. So if you're interested, you can watch them. I don't know why this one didn't get a lot of views. I usually don't really care about views, but I thought this was cool. So you guys may not know this, but if you go to the NASA website, they have 3D models that you can download. So they have spaceships and satellites and spacesuits and planets and textures. So then I did a tutorial on taking the assets from NASA, and they're free, by the way. You know, you could use them. So you can go in there and just download all these assets from NASA and create your space scenes and create you know, the Earth and all of that. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, I don't know why people didn't like that, but I thought it was great. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. And yeah, if you have any more comments or questions, you know where my YouTube channel is, or my website, or my Facebook. And yeah, it was good to be live with you. And I'll probably do a live stream in Australia if there's something cool at the conference. And yeah, if not, then I'll see you next time in a tutorial or whenever I do another live stream here on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be talking to you soon. Have a good rest of the weekend for those of you that are in this part of the world. I guess in some other parts of the world, it's already Monday. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.